Snow fell the way it does, only in small towns, slowly, thoughtfully, as if each flake wanted to choose the perfect place to land. In the quiet of the early evening, when streetlights had just blinked awake and windows glowed warm with families settling in, a small girl named Emily Hart pressed her nose against the frosted glass of her living room window and whispered, "Please, let him get my letter." She meant Santa. But not the Santa every child imagined roaring across the sky in a sleigh. No, Emily had written her letter to Santa at the corner office. And that mistake, if it was a mistake at all, was about to change everything. It had been a rough year in the Hart household. Emily's father had passed away in early spring, a quiet tragedy that left a loud emptiness in the house. Her mother, Grace, was doing her best working 2 jobs, sleeping hardly at all, and still managing to smile for her 8-year-old daughter. But even the strongest smiles crack around the edges when they carry too much weight. December was approaching, but this year Grace couldn't hide the truth. The electric bill was overdue, the rent was due, groceries were running thin, Christmas gifts. That was a fantasy one she didn't dare speak of, not even in dreams. But Emily believed, and belief, for a child, is both the softest and the sharpest kind of magic. She had marched to the mailbox with her letter clutched in her mittened hand, red cheeks burning with excitement. "I wrote to the Santa that lives in an office," she'd told her mother, "the one who helps people all year long." Grace had blinked, assuming it was just a child's imagination. Of course, sweetheart. But then, a few miles away, on the top floor of a sleek glass building overlooking the same sleepy town, a grieving widower sat alone at his desk, lit only by the glow of a single lamp and the moon reflecting off steel and snow. His name was Jonathan Reed. CEO of Reed and Miller Enterprises. A man who had everything, except the one thing he could never get back. His wife, Carolyn, had passed away the previous winter. Her laughter still lived in the walls of their home, but he hadn't stepped foot in that house for months. Work had become both shield and punishment. He lived at the corner office now, eating meals brought by assistants, dozing off on the couch, waking only to drown himself in spreadsheets and silence. His friends had tried to help. His board had begged him to take time off. But when your soul collapses, sometimes the only thing you know how to do is bury yourself beneath it. And so, on a night when he felt particularly hollow, a stack of mail had been placed on his desk, letters from partners, legal documents, reports, in one small pink envelope, addressed in uneven handwriting. To Santa at the corner office. He wasn't sure why he opened it. Maybe curiosity, maybe fate, maybe the universe still reaching for him even when he'd stopped reaching back. Inside was a letter written in purple crayon. Dear Santa. I know you don't live at the North Pole because Mommy says the people who help us the most don't always live far away. I don't want toys this year. My mommy cries at night when she thinks I'm asleep. She tries to be strong, but I know she's tired. She works and still worries a lot. I just want her to smile for real again. I want her to sleep, and I want her to not be scared anymore. If you can help her, I know you will, because the kind of Santa who works in an office must have big magic. Love, Emily. Jonathan read the letter once, then again, and again. His hand trembled not with anger or confusion but with something he hadn't felt since Caroline died. Purpose, warmth. Humanity returning to a heart, he thought, had gone cold forever. He leaned back, blinking hard as he stared at the ceiling. Santa at the corner office, he whispered, a broken laugh escaping. Of all the letters he had received that year, threats, demands, proposals, invoices, this was the only one that mattered. He reached for the envelope again, noticing a small drawing on the back, a stick figure holding the hand of a smaller stick figure, snowflakes, a lopsided heart, and an address, scrawled in crayon. He looked at the clock. 8:47 p.m. Normally, he wouldn't leave the office. Not at this hour. Not at any hour. But tonight, something compelled him to stand, grab his coat, and walk toward the elevator. He hadn't been outside for anything other than business meetings in months. The cold slapped him awake the moment he stepped onto the street. He inhaled sharply, and for a moment, his breath fogged out like a ghost, fleeing his chest. A taxi pulled up when he raised his hand. Where to? The driver asked. Jonathan read the address again, the purple crayon marks smudged from where his thumb had brushed them. To this home, he said softly. It was only a 15-minute drive, but each minute felt like a question. What was he doing? Showing up at a stranger's door in the middle of winter because of a child's letter? Was he overstepping? Was this foolish? But grief recognizes grief, even in silence. And something told him the letter had been written not just to Santa, but to someone who needed it just as much as the writer did. The cab turned onto a narrow street lined with small rented houses, some decorated with dangling Christmas lights, some dark and quiet. He found the address, a small, neat house with a flickering porch light and a wreath made of construction paper. Asterisk he approached the steps and paused, the cold biting through his coat. He hesitated, unsure of what he would say and sure of whether this was kindness or intrusion. Asterisk, but then he remembered the line from the letter. My mommy cries at night when she thinks I'm asleep. He raised his hand and knocked. Asterisk inside the house. Grace froze. Asterisk she wasn't expecting anyone. No one visited at this hour. She wrapped her thin sweater tighter around herself and walked slowly to the door. Peeking through the curtain, a tall man in a dark coat. A stranger. Her heart pounded. She opened the door, just one cautious inch. Asterisk, yes. Jonathan cleared his throat, holding the pink letter in his gloved hand. Good evening. My name is Jonathan Reed, he said quietly. I received a letter addressed to Santa at the corner office. Asterisk her breath hitched. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and worry. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Emily must have. She didn't mean she just asterisk. No, he interrupted gently. She meant every word. He held out the letter. Grace stared at it as if it were something fragile and dangerous at the same time. Asterisk, may I speak with you? He asked. Asterisk, she hesitated, gripping the door, torn between caution and the strange, unexpected sincerity in his voice. Asterisk, Emily's small voice carried from inside. Mommy, who is it? Asterisk, and when Grace looked down at her daughter's wide, trusting eyes, something in her chest loosened. She opened the door fully. Come in, Mr. Reed. Asterisk, he stepped inside, and everything in all three of their lives began to change. The warmth of the small house wrapped around Jonathan like a blanket the moment he stepped inside. It smelled faintly of cinnamon and old books, and the soft hum of a heater struggling against the cold filled the room. The living space was tidy to tidy, the way homes often look when their owners are fighting to keep control of something while everything else slips away. Asterisk, Emily stared up at him with an expression that blended awe and confusion, her purple socks sliding a little on the wooden floor as she shifted closer to her mother. Asterisk, you're Santa, she whispered. Asterisk, the question struck him in a way nothing had in a very long time. He crouched down slightly, meeting her wide eyes. Not exactly, he said gently, but I got your letter, and it was very important. Asterisk, Emily's face brightened as if he had just confirmed every hope she'd tucked into that pink envelope. She ran to her small table and came back holding a mug with a cartoon snowman on it. This is for Santa visitors, she announced. Mommy says we don't have fancy cocoa, but I put extra marshmallows for you. Asterisk, the mug trembled just a little in her hand. Jonathan took it with both of his, touched by the gesture. Thank you, Emily. This is perfect. Asterisk, Grace watched quietly, arms folded tightly, as if afraid to let them fall. She was cautious but not cold. More like a person who had been storm-battered for so long that the idea of shelter felt suspicious. Asterisk, Mr. Reed. She began, clearing her throat. I'm really sorry if my daughter bothered you. She shouldn't have sent that letter. I'll talk to her about asterisk. Please don't. He interrupted. It wasn't a bother. It meant something to me. Asterisk, Grace looked at him, confused. She didn't know who he was, not really. She didn't know the depth of his grief, the months of sleepless nights, the waves of loneliness that had drowned him every time he walked into an empty home. But she recognized sadness. It was the one language she spoke fluently lately. Asterisk, he sat on the couch, encouraged by Grace's small nod, and Emily jumped up beside him, swinging her legs excitedly. Asterisk, so, he said softly, can you tell me what made you write the letter? Asterisk, Emily answered before her mother could stop her. Because you work in an office, she said Mommy said people in offices make decisions and help others. She pointed to the window. And your building is the biggest in town. So I thought that's where the most important Santa must live. Asterisk, Grace groaned under her breath, mortified. Emily asterisk, but Jonathan smiled. A real one, warm at the edges. That's actually very clever of you. Asterisk, Emily beamed. I wanted Mommy to have a real Christmas, not the pretend kind. Asterisk, the words landed heavily, and Grace's throat tightened. She stepped into the kitchen for a moment, needing to breathe, gripping the edge of the counter until her knuckles turned white. Asterisk, Jonathan watched quietly. He could see exhaustion in her shoulders, in the way she blinked too slowly, in the way she kept the lights dimmed to save electricity. He recognized the look people who are fighting battles others never see. Asterisk, when she returned. She tried to put on a smile, but it wavered. Mr. Reed, I appreciate that you came, truly, but we're fine. I don't want pity. Asterisk, his expression softened. I didn't come out of pity. Asterisk, then why? She asked, arms crossing again, but gentler this time. He hesitated for a long moment before he answered. Because someone once told me that helping others is the only way to keep your heart alive. His gaze flicked to the letter on the table. And your daughter reminded me of something I forgot a long time ago. Asterisk, Grace's eyes softened. Not pity, understanding. Asterisk, he sipped the cocoa, smiling slightly at the sweetness. Maybe I can do something for you, he said, not because you asked, but because she did. Asterisk, Emily gasped. You can help Mommy. Asterisk, Emily, Grace said quickly, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Santa can't fix everything. Asterisk, but he's not regular Santa, Emily insisted. He's the office Santa. Asterisk, Jonathan let out a gentle laugh. Well, I don't exactly have reindeer, but maybe I can help in my own way. He turned to Grace. You work 2 jobs. Asterisk, her posture stiffened. 3. Sometimes, but only until February. I'm trying to keep up with bills. Asterisk, do you have childcare? Asterisk, no, she said softly. I can't afford it. He nodded, thinking. Grace, he said, choosing his words with care. I run a foundation that supports community families. We have programs for childcare, job assistance, housing support. I don't want charity, she cut in quickly. He leaned forward gently. It's not charity. It's resources that exist because people sometimes need them. Because life isn't easy. Because nobody should do everything alone. Asterisk, she didn't respond. Not because she refused, but because the part of her that had been surviving on hope alone was dangerously close to crying. Asterisk, Emily scooted closer. Mommy, please. He's Santa. Santa doesn't trick people. Asterisk, Jonathan's gaze softened even further. Let me help. You don't have to decide now, but let me try. Silence filled the room, but it wasn't the cold silence of fear or discomfort. It was the silence of a heart opening a crack after being closed too long. Asterisk, Grace's voice finally came, barely above a whisper. Asterisk, what? What would that help look like? Asterisk, he smiled, gentle, respectful, reassuring. Whatever you need most. Childcare, bills, food, or even just a Christmas tree. Asterisk, Emily gasped loudly. A tree, Mama, a tree. Asterisk, Grace let out a trembling laugh, one hand covering her mouth. We couldn't afford one this year, she admitted. Asterisk, Jonathan stood. Then let's fix that. Asterisk, within the hour. After a hesitant but hopeful agreement from Grace, they were in his caramelly, chattering excitedly in the back seat. As they drove to the only Christmas tree lot still open, asterisk, snow fell in soft waves, settling on the branches of fresh-cut trees. The lights twinkled, music played quietly, and Emily dashed between rows of evergreens, examining each one with the seriousness of a royal judge. Asterisk, this one is too prickly, she declared. This one is too tall. This one smells funny. Asterisk, Jonathan and Grace followed slowly, side by side. He walked with his hands in his coat pockets, while she wrapped her scarf tighter against the cold. Asterisk, she's very sure of herself, he said, smiling. Asterisk, Grace sighed, shaking her head lovingly. She's all I have left. She keeps me going. You're doing an amazing job, he said softly. She looked up, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. I don't feel like it. Most good parents don't, he replied. Their eyes held for a moment longer than either expected. Then Emily's squeal cut through the cold night. Asterisk, this one. This is our tree. Asterisk, Jonathan looked. The tree was medium-sized, a little imperfect, a little lopsided, much like the life they were trying to rebuild. It's perfect, he said. Grace nodded. It is. Asterisk, they brought it home. Emily singing carols off-key, the tree tied clumsily to the roof. Inside, Jonathan helped set it up, holding it steady while Grace adjusted it. In that tiny living room, among the boxers of stored grief and worn furniture, something glowed brighter than the lights they strung. Something like hope. Emily eventually fell asleep on the couch wrapped in a blanket, her head on Jonathan's lap as if it were the most natural place in the world. Grace rushed forward, embarrassed, but he shook his head gently. Asterisk, it's okay, he whispered. Asterisk, Grace watched him stroke Emily's hair, her heart tugging in a way she didn't expect. Something about the way he looked at her daughter, protective gentle, made her chest ache. Asterisk, why did you really come tonight? She asked softly. He looked up, meeting her eyes with an honesty so raw, it startled her. Because I was alone, he said, and your daughter reminded me that I didn't have to be. Grace swallowed hard. And, are you still alone? She whispered. He shook his head. Not anymore. Asterisk, the clock ticked. The heater hummed. The tree lights flickered softly. Asterisk, and in that small living room, 3 people, one grieving mother, one grieving widower, and one hopeful child began to stitch their broken pieces together. Not perfectly, not instantly, but beautifully. Over the following days, Jonathan returned again and again, not out of duty, but out of something deeper. He helped fix the broken window latch. He brought groceries. He arranged for affordable childcare. And, slowly, Grace began to rely on him not for gifts, but for presents. Asterisk, by Christmas morning, the house felt different, warmer, fuller, alive. Asterisk, Grace woke to the smell of pancakes, laughter, and Emily dragging her into the living room where Jonathan stood by the tree, smiling in a way that softened all the sharp edges of the last year. Asterisk, Mommy, Emily said, holding both of their hands. I think Santa brought me a new family. Grace's breath caught. Jonathan's eyes glistened. Asterisk, he knelt beside Emily. No, sweetheart, he whispered. You already had the family. I'm just lucky to be part of it. Asterisk, Grace reached out, taking his hand. He squeezed back, steady and warm. Asterisk, and as snow continued to fall outside, gentle and slow, the house filled with something precious, not magic, not miracles, something more real, something earned, something new. hope, love, healing. Asterisk, all because a little girl wrote a letter to Santa at the corner office. Asterisk, and the widowed CEO answered the door.